Okay, so we collect our fighters, we get them on this creepy boat. There is a tournament, and humanity's fate hangs in the balance. Humanity has lost the last 9 Mortal Kombat tournaments. If they lose this one, then Outworld will attack and conquer the Earth. That is the story. We are halfway through the movie. The story is over. There is no more story to be had. The second half of the movie is kicking.
Gotta love the cheesy, impossibly huge staircase.
We also have a lot of other people who are just walking through the grounds on this island. Who the hell are these people? I thought Mortal Kombat and this tournament was the best of the best, not an open invitation to whoever was available and had free time.
This whole interior of the temple reminds me of Aladdin.
And now for a taste of things to come.
This banquet scene is so dumb, and I love it.
All right, now for a taste of things to come.
Then out of nowhere, this army of ninjas comes in, roughs up everyone, and then kicks over all the tables just to make way for a fight scene.
So let's flip up a banquet table that has delicious looking food, all because they want Sub-Zero to be a dick and freeze the equivalent of a red shirt from Star Trek.
What a waste of good food.
This was like a weird thing that resonated with 15-year-old me, but like that super ripped dude who fights Sub-Zero in the dining hall where they throw all the tables on the ground. I remember being super impressed watching that guy do all those like kicks over his head, and like, I don't know, for whatever reason, that actor, I would have liked to have seen him fight more, because I thought that whole little sequence of him like showing off was awesome.
So Sub-Zero is doing some kind of interpretive dance, and these other guys all have socks on their heads. This movie is the best kind of terrible.
These cronies are all shirtless, wearing red hoods. They're just everywhere, hanging out.
And of course, let's see, for fatalities, I don't really feel like there was a whole lot. They didn't get as like in depth in the movie as you would have expected in the games, like even in that time. But the ice exploding move at the dinner table was really cool.
Probably the weird freeze particles is one of the better special effects.
A few actually hold up here and there, like Sub-Zero's ice powers.
Also, Sub-Zero freezing that guy was kind of like, why?
Then we get to see Sub-Zero showing off his power, and Johnny immediately starts having second thoughts.
And I doubly loved that no one cared even a little bit that they just saw this murder happen right in front of them. Not even a little bit. They just kept on going and moving on with their night. I mean, I guess as you do, as, you know, the mortals tasked with saving us.
Why waste one of your dumb henchmen on that? It's demoralizing to the rest of the crew, Mr. Sorcerer.
Shang Tsung says, flawless victory.
After the banquet, our heroes continue to roam around the castle.
Liu Kang, Sonya Blade, and Johnny Cage all wander around looking for Shang Tsung. There's some great cheesy character moments between the three.
My favorite fighters is probably Liu Kang and Johnny Cage. Just their interactions together are very funny and very sarcastic at times. It's great.
As Liu Kang, Johnny Cage, and Sonya continue to roam around the castle,
it all feels very Star Wars. You got Liu Kang as Luke Skywalker, Sonya Blade in the Princess Leia role, Johnny Cage is definitely the Han Solo of the group, and Raiden is basically Obi-Wan Kenobi. I guess that means Shang Tsung is Palpatine and Goro is Vader?
They think they see Katana as a random girl in a hallway with a torch.
There's even a moment where they're walking like over this huge precipice, and it just reminds me of the Death Star. Pretty cool. Apparently villains just have this thing against railings.
One of my favorite moments, though, overall, if we're just talking about fun, when Johnny, Sonya, and Liu are going after the bad guys, they're in this underground lair, this cave, and as they're looking down, I don't know what you call it, the cave hallway, you know, convinced bad guys just went that way, and we're chasing the bad guys this direction.
Johnny says he knows which way Katana went as they tear through spider webs that have been encompassing a hallway for hundreds of years.
Now, as they're heading down this, you know, cave hallway, removing massive spider webs out of their way, because clearly they're chasing someone who just went through these.
But clearly she went this way.
Brilliant. I know you might think I'm making fun of it, but these are legit things that I sincerely enjoyed throughout the entire film.
They end up back in Goro's room, where they are attacked by a bunch of the cronies.
The set designs in this are awesome.
It just, everything is like, the design is fun, the fighting's fun. It has kind of like a Xena Warrior Princess, Hercules Legendary Journeys vibe to it.
The fights in this movie are solid.
I like that. I like that they found, generally speaking, people who look like they knew how to fight.
It's all real martial arts moves, and the choreography is pretty decent throughout.
Which is okay this time, even though the tournament hasn't started and attacking the Earth Warriors is forbidden, according to Raiden.
Hey, it's the music again. Test your might.
And then the music kicks in that
By this point in the movie, we've heard the Mortal Kombat theme for like the third time.
We have the obligatory hero fight scene.
I like the sound design. The sound effects are cool. It sounds like, I like that every time somebody connects with a jab, it sounds like you just mash somebody in the face with a 2x4.
90s sound effects, guys getting kicked downstairs, and it sounds like bowling pins. Every hit, every kick, every wisp of a hand, 90s sound effect.
They do a really good job of world building just with the look of things. There's so many cobwebs and candles all over the place. Maybe it's just the goth kid in me that loves anything related to Halloween, but yeah, I love all of this.
I think all of this is really fun.
It's amazing if you grew up in this decade. Raiden shows up, saves our heroes, and that's the end of the night. The tournament finally begins the next day. But how does this bracket work? Are they actually sanctioned at certain times? Is this a free-for-all?
Once the tournament gets going, the entire movie just becomes a succession of fight scenes.
The tournament begins, starting with the bow staff fight.
So we just get fight sequences. Liu Kang fights a dude.
Martial arts in this film is all right.
First official fight is Eddie Gordo versus Jackie Chan.
Liu Kang fighting somebody.
We get our first fight of the tournament. Liu Kang versus some random dude.
We don't know who.
And Liu Kang wins against some half-tiger capoeira fighter.
Just keep mashing those buttons, Eddie. You're bound to win.
For some people, this could seem like some of the best fight scenes they've ever seen, and perhaps I thought so as well when I was 15. However, once you've seen legit fight scenes coming straight out of Hong Kong cinema, everything else pales in comparison. But I'm not knocking them.
One of my favorite fighters was the loser fighter from the first Liu Kang fight. I like that tiger growl. So he was, infused with something, Island of Dr. Moreau style, but still lost.
Of course, there's all the spectators. How they cheer is very similar to how the spectators cheered in the games.
Liu wins, and then Shang Tsung gets up and just straight steals the dude's soul.
The dreaded foe loses, getting his soul taken by Shang Tsung.
It's a little weird that no one has a visceral reaction to this. It just kind of happens it's what's supposed to happen. It's just kind of weird.
In real time. He goes rigor mortis instantly.
And also, why does Shang Tsung come in and get to do the fatality? I kind of get it from a story perspective. You don't want your hero just murdering random martial arts competitors.
Some of the good, I thought Shang Tsung, like I said, was really well cast. I don't love that he's walking around like a leather jacket all the time. He's a little bit too much like trickster for me, and not enough just crazy evil sorcerer who's going to steal souls in a martial arts tournament. But he's pretty cool, and the acting is really good.
I know people are going to want to talk about the graphics and the CGI in this movie because, yes, dated, sure, for today's times.
I really like this. The CG is dated, but it's 1995. You have to give some of it a pass.
But one thing that really didn't carry over well was the CGI.
Probably the CGI.
I've mentioned that the CG and the blue screen and all that stuff looks pretty good in this movie. The effects in this movie are good, especially some of the more practical effects. I don't have a problem. The reptile looks bad.
Can we talk about that reptile CGI? Damn.
But the one CGI, though, that to me looked the worst, but I had the most fun with, was the first time we revealed a reptile.
Reptile pops up. First as a stone lizard, then as an invisible lizard.
For instance, the sequence with the little monster that becomes Reptile, which, God, that makes no damn sense whatsoever.
Reptile looks so bad.
Reptile does not look good.
That is some bad CGI.
It looks kind of PS1-y.
He looked like a bright piece of candy.
It's really stupid.
And that is what I called him for the rest of the film.
But, I guess they were trying to do something with it, right?
CGI reptile does not look great, but at least it's used sparingly.
I can't remember if special effects at the time I considered amazing, but probably the worst special effect would be the reptile CGI as the creature.
Need I remind you that we already had Jurassic Park come out, so there was technology to do this better.
This is horrible. Like,
But the movie producers didn't care.
thanks, 90s.
The special effects leave much to be desired.
Thankfully, not a lot of the movie is CGI, but when they use it, it's really bad.
They were all terrible.
That was the only one that I'll say out of all of it. I think right now, if they were to like redo that whole scene, would be redone. The rest of it, skull in the sky, all that kind of stuff, fine.
Oh man, I forgot how bad he looked. He looks like a Windows screensaver.
I don't think I can choose a worse special effect.
Now, the special effects in this movie haven't really aged all that well.
We saw better in 1995, and obviously the producers spent more money on replaying the Mortal Kombat theme song than anything called CGI.
But I'm pretty sure they were impressive enough back in 1995.
It was fine. I don't think it was enough to take me out of anything, even with it being as old as it is.
None of them are actually really good. It's all a little bit terrible.
If you gave me about Tree Fitty, I could probably recreate this entire movie.
I will defend the backdrop, though, and the setting that they created in that film. That still holds up. I feel like the ambiance and just the way they designed the set to go on around them, or however it was done in that time, I think that still holds up for sure.
This is like so cheap. I forgot how cheap this was.
Still better than stuff that we're going to see in the sequel that was made 2 years later than this film.
And we meet Prince Goro.
And we're introduced to Goro.
There's this great scene between Goro and Kano.
Actually, I take it back. I think the whole budget went to Goro.
Goro looks good.
But I want to say my favorite outside character of the whole thing is Goro.
And while I know everyone will be tearing the Goro puppet 3 extra assholes, at least recognize Kevin Michael Richardson for doing an outstanding job voicing him.
It was voiced by Kevin Michael Richardson.
You all know that guy. Even if you don't, you do.
Prosthetics are on point. It's like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
We gotta give props to that.
Sure, the animatronics on Goro might not be the best at times, but I have so much respect for the way they brought him to life without the use of some crappy CG.
I also love that his center of gravity was so high.
It's a little clunky, a little top heavy, but it's cool. And I think he's like weirdly endearing in this, in the way that he interacts with people.
I think I had the most fun just riffing with this film because I just envisioned so much for one of them just to go up and ding right on his chest and he would just fall right over. But maybe that's how I enjoyed the film.
That was fun.
The puppetry on Goro, it's puppetry.
It just looked amazing.
Some of the practical effects here are actually really good.
It's like a prosthetic. They had like some robotic stuff going on with it. I think it looks good.
Again, today's day and age, you'd look at it and it's puppetry, it's fine. But I think the hilarity of all just stood out as kind of one of my favorite pieces to go back to.
So, it's 26-year-old puppetry, so, all things considered, I think it looks pretty awesome.
And while I can admit Goro's design is a bit flawed, I really don't know how else they were going to pull this character off any better than they did.
And I'm being serious. Who doesn't? It was brilliant.
The best decision with Goro was to base his face off Willem Dafoe. That's a smooth move. He is definitely terrifying.
And I gotta admit, he scared the crap out of me as a kid. He still kind of does, to be honest. I wouldn't want to fight that guy either.
And the animatronics, you can definitely see in the face that they have not aged well.
Hopefully the new version looks a lot better, we'll just say that. But for what it was, it looked pretty good.
CG wasn't good enough for a fully formed character like it is today. I mean, just look at Scorpion's hand parasite thing or whatever the hell. Seriously, what was that?
I did appreciate the motion capture and puppetry, though.
Like, his conversation with Kano is, like, really funny.
Oh, Kano is eating like a pig in a huge feast. It was on point.
Man, that turkey leg looks good.
I really enjoy what they did with Goro in this movie.
Sonya vs. Kano. Fight!
Next up, Sonya, taking on Kano.
Sonya then gets to fight Kano.
Real early in the movie, actually.
This Sonya-Kano fight is pretty good. Kano is such a douche in this version, and I love it. He pulls out his signature knife and gloats before getting his ass handed to him.
She starts beating his ass.
Veronica, I thank you for beating the shit out of me.
He gets a slight upper hand, getting some of that kicking in. Looks pretty brutal.
Don't bring a knife to a kickboxing tournament.
Kano dies. They've been building up this whole Kano situation for the first half of the movie. It's Sonya Blade's only motivation for being at this tournament.
But she uses her neck grab move from the game.
Shang Tsung seems really into this in a creepy way. Finish him!
And she kills him in the second fight of the tournament, and now there's like an hour left of the movie and her story arc is complete.
He asked her to give him a break, and she complies by snapping his neck.
Sonya snaps his neck. That was awesome. And we cut to this random forest.
Kano dies, and then we cut to Johnny Cage.
Johnny Cage goes walking by himself in the woods during Sonya's fight.
Finally, we get to see Johnny Cage fighting Scorpion.
Then he's attacked by Scorpion.
Which seems a bit intense. Everyone else is fighting humans, not monsters.
The Johnny Cage Scorpion fight was pretty intense.
This scene where Johnny Cage faces off against Scorpion is a little weird.
Was that a legit match? We don't know.
Johnny takes on the living lame rope.
Seriously, what was that?
It's a little weird that Scorpion's stinger comes out of his palm, and it's like a creature that you can knock unconscious or kill.
I mean, like the effect of Scorpion's hand. What, by the way, why is Scorpion's spear not just a spear? Why is it a demon grabby thing?
It's odd how they made Scorpion's spear weapon like a part of him and also alive.
That's ridiculous.
Scorpion's hand parasite thing or whatever the hell.
I thought that was a bit weird.
I guess it's not super far-fetched considering he's a demon hellspawn of vengeance, but, you know.
It wouldn't be that weird to have a ninja that throws a harpoon with a rope attached to it, but I don't know, they just have to make all that CG work for them.
The effect on his hand is really cheesy and the spear looks cheesy.
I did enjoy the creative liberty they took with Scorpion as well, having his weapon come out of his hand directly as opposed to it just being a weapon that he carries.
Of course, anytime anybody uses like a quote-unquote special move, it looks kind of silly.
Come here!
You've got the Scorpion versus Johnny Cage fight in hell.
He's fighting Scorpion in a forest, and then he fights him in hell.
Although it does go a little bit off the rails when they teleport to Scorpion's domain or whatever the hell that was.
They start by fighting in the woods and then end up randomly teleporting to this really cool netherworld set.
Johnny Flying Kick jumps at Scorpion. They end up at freaking Nightmare on Elm Street, and yeah, Scorpion is like, welcome, then starts kicking his ass.
So in this entire movie, I am pretty sure Scorpion's ladder set is the most detailed. Like everything else is just on a beach or in somewhere pre-existing, and then the other sets are kind of pretty shit. But this is the first one in the movie where I was like, hey, this is actually kind of cool.
With like lots of bones and scaffolding.
The getting kicked in the head face cam was nice. Get down here!
I think they almost leaned too heavily into the references, especially with Scorpion only speaking in catchphrases, like an action figure.
So many dumb sayings in that Scorpion voice. Ugh.
Get over here! Come here! Get down here!
And I feel like the guy who did that nailed it too. The
get over here!
Fun detail, Ed Boon did the voice for Scorpion in this, where he repeats various iterations of his catchphrase, get over here. He gets 4 lines, and I think they're like, get over here, get down here, get back here, and then he dies.
At least the game only had like 1 or 2.
Welcome!
I mean, I feel like that was dead on.
Ed Boon, by the way, is one of the creators of Mortal Kombat, and he voices all of these characters in the game. He's the dude that pops in and is like, whoopsie.
And also, did anyone think to just have brunch with the guy? It just seems like maybe he needed to work on his inviting tone.
One of the best parts is where we get to see Scorpion's flaming Ghost Rider skull before he just randomly explodes for no reason.
And you've got the freaking where he pulls his face off and goes
because he's a skull underneath.
When you're just like, oh no, what's gonna happen? And
Scorpion turns into the demon and blows fire at Johnny Cage.
Just an odd choice to make mid-fight, you know?
Johnny kicks his ass and it's great, and you get to have the get over here thing.
Johnny uses an old shield thing to destroy Scorpion, fighting off that flame breath.
But Johnny Cage deflects it with a flaming razor blade Captain America shield, cuts off Scorpion's head or cuts his skull in half, and then Scorpion explodes.
Definitely one of my favorite finishing moves is the Johnny Cage friendality, where he throws a signed picture of himself at people,
leaving a "to my greatest fan" autograph.
So that happens.
Oh, and we get the autograph joke, which is a nice touch.
My question at the end of this: how did Johnny get out of hell?
Gotta love how Shang Tsung just has everything branded with the Mortal Kombat logo.
Got Katana,
Just a lot less of the really stupid stuff with Katana.
well, really being Lady in a Fridge, but it's a really good film if you ignore all the bad.
We meet Princess Katana, Bond girl herself from License to Kill.
Talissa Soto plays Princess Katana, and hey, we have a Bond girl connection. She was in License to Kill.
We get our first vision of Princess Katana. She's played by Talisa Soto. You might remember her from Lupe in James Bond's License to Kill.
I think Ben mentioned her character in this movie back in that series. Wasn't that, I don't know, like 100 years ago? I mean, it feels like in podcasting years.
The guy who plays Shang Tsung is also in that. He plays one of the agents that's down there trying to infiltrate the drug dealers' operations in not Panama. I guess maybe these actors have the same agent.
We get the fight between Liu Kang and Katana on the beach.
Earlier in the film, Shang Tsung told Reptile that he needs to keep an eye on Princess Katana and make sure that she stays away from the Earth Warriors, especially Liu Kang.
Unfortunately, she's kind of barely in the movie, but still kind of cool.
Katana did not need to be in this movie whatsoever. I mean, the savers for the sequel.
Liu Kang fights Katana on a James Bond beach with some dumb cryptic messages.
Is this the beach from The Man with the Golden Gun?
But then Liu Kang's next tournament fight is against Princess Katana, where she just gives him information on his next fight.
Not how she's supposed to be a fighter in this tournament, but it was dumb.
So if he wasn't supposed to interact with her, why did Shang Tsung set up that match? The information that he gets from Princess Katana is to use the element that brings life in his next match.
But Liu is immediately sent to fight Sub-Zero, where Katana's messages are like water poured over Liu. Ugh.
Essentially, water.
One of my favorite fights is between Liu Kang and Sub-Zero.
The Liu Kang Sub-Zero fight was pretty cool.
Sure, it's cheesy, but I think it's pretty effective.
I did very much also appreciate the stances before they got into fights. It did give me that playing the game vibes.
The official Mortal Kombat has only been going on for like 10 minutes so far, and we've seen Liu Kang in 3 fights. They ain't screwing around. No lunch breaks, no afternoon tea, no smoke breaks, just fighting.
You've got Sub-Zero being awesome.
I always loved that backflip that Sub-Zero pulled over Liu Kang's head.
Apparently, the guy that plays Sub-Zero is a legit martial arts master, like in real life.
And just before the match against Sub-Zero, Raiden comes in and strategically places 2 buckets of water in the fighting arena for Liu Kang.
Hell, Katana even had to show up to remind him. So dumb. Just beat it into the audience's head, people.
One of the coolest moments, pun intended, is when Sub-Zero has water thrown at him.
The bucket of water was a cool finishing move and a clever way for Liu Kang to use Sub-Zero's power against him.
Liu Kang hurls a bucket of water that forms a giant icicle, impales Sub-Zero and kills him. And
So when Liu Kang kills Sub-Zero, I love that they don't show how the water got out of the bucket. He just like throws the bucket, and then they kind of cut to the water already turning into the spear-like thing.
It freezes midair and spears him through the chest.
Sub-Zero getting killed by his own stuff.
But let's be honest, in reality, it would have just turned into an ice rock and hit him right square in the face.
how can Raiden and Katana get involved? I mean, that seems like blatant disqualification right there, right?
Okay, again, Scorpion dies, Sub-Zero is killed, and I like the creative way in which they kill Sub-Zero. They throw water at his, like, sphere of ice, and it turns into a giant icicle and impales him. But also, like, there's like 45 minutes left in this movie, and now Scorpion, Sub-Zero, and Kano are all dead.
Goro is a beast in this movie. They really play him up as a threat.
And also, the one fight scene with Goro, I think it was with Goro.
Shang Tsung goes back to see Goro and says that, we've let these humans win long enough.
Cut to Goro completely destroying the losers.
Goro goes on for like 2.5 minutes of just beating people's asses and killing them.
All of these scenes filmed with Goro were actually filmed on sound stages because they were worried that the Goro puppet wouldn't survive the trip.
So when they're doing the Goro Defoe fight montage where they're just like getting rid of a bunch of the weaker people, I was kind of paying attention to that, and I'm pretty sure they only use like 6 different people in different outfits.
All these guys got past their first or second matches just to get destroyed by Goro in Mortal Kombat.
Who are all these people, and how did they already get to Goro?
And I love how just incredibly unfair some of the fights are in this. Just like in the game, like it doesn't make sense to pit some of these guys against one another.
And in like every scene that you see Goro, I swear, just like pay attention, but every single time Goro has to be shown on screen, there's like 20 or 30 seconds of everyone just cheering.
So the extra arms can only raise up to shout and cheer. There's no other movement.
Every single time.
We then see a side character that we got introduced to earlier named Art. He is going to be fighting Goro.
Art, some random made-up friend of Johnny's, is taking punches like Rocky, fully getting destroyed.
If we remember, they had, this big drag out, drop down fight. And then as you would think the feel is coming, it's going to be a fatality. He stands there and does the little wiggle for a minute. And then he just falls over. Did it give you the vibes that, player just totally messed up their up, down, left, right? Nobody?
While two roided up dudes cheer Goro on the entire time.
He gets a couple hits in, but Goro ultimately kills him.
And also the use of flawless victory was great.
At the end, Shang Tsung declares flawless victory. But that's not true. Art got 3 hits in. That has to count for something.
And this is where we find out that Shang Tsung actually does not know the definition of flawless victory.
Because it was used right once? I want to say the first time. So again, lots of fun watching them both kick and punch and beat each other up for him to yell, flawless victory. I mean, you've got to lean into this. It's so much more fun.
Also, Sonya was like, he's never been beaten. Yo, girl, you just heard about this tournament. Don't tell me you have the trading cards now.
Oh my gosh. Still, again, so much fun.
Shang Tsung says, "Your soul is mine." Raiden gives the heroes a pep talk about facing their fears.
Raiden's, I'm here to help solve your problems dialogue is great, because we barely know these characters. Nobody gives a shit. This is just hey, you should be connected to these people.
Johnny is afraid that he's fake and is always trying to prove himself. Sonya is afraid of asking for help, and Liu is afraid of his destiny.
Johnny announces that he's just going to challenge Goro moving forward in the tournament, and Raiden's he's dumb, but the secret would please one of the humans is doing something.
After seeing Art die, Johnny Cage determines that he needs to be the one to protect Liu and Sonya, so he makes a deal with Shang Tsung to fight Goro one-on-one.
Wait, if you can just challenge the highest guy up on the list, why do you have to fight through 40 other fighters? Just thought about that right now.
Shang Tsung agrees, but with the stipulation that he gets to choose the final fight anywhere, anytime, with anyone, which Johnny Cage agrees to, and then he goes on to fight Goro.
The scene where Cage finally takes Goro down is probably my favorite moment in the whole movie.
Johnny challenges Goro, getting his glasses crushed.
Goro destroys his $500 sunglasses.
Yo, those are $500 sunglasses, asshole.
Those were $500 sunglasses, asshole.
Johnny destroys Goro's junk with his split punch.
Split punch to the balls.
Favorite one-liner, those are $500 sunglasses, asshole.
Goro rages.
I mean, he does have my favorite line in the entire movie. I mean, he doesn't like that for a good bulk of 45 minutes of the film.
Again, the suit arms only have one move, just up and yelling.
Goro crushes his shades and Johnny does his punch ball splits, then runs for it.
Johnny Cage's split punch was easily the most recognizable for most people.
And it's a very short fight.
Johnny runs away. Goro follows.
Where Goro chases him up a mountain.
Goro chases him up some stairs and kicks him off a ledge. This is the part where you fall down.
And then Johnny kicks him off and Goro dies.
And then it's kicked over the edge.
And Goro does a die-hard fall into oblivion. I like how most of this movie, up until this point, has been pretty much the plot and structure of the original game. It's a tournament being held on Shang Tsung's island, and Goro is the sub-boss, with Shang Tsung himself as the final boss.
Shang Tsung then grabs Sonya Blade and takes her to Outworld per the agreement that he and Johnny Cage made.
But there's a twist here at the end where Shang Tsung warps to Outworld, which is actually where the second game takes place.
Raiden is not able to follow, but Liu Kang and Johnny Cage can.
Shang Tsung's kind of a sore loser. After his champion Goro dies, he kind of loses his cool, and he panics, and he challenges Sonya, kidnapping her, and takes her to the wastelands of Outworld.
I have nothing further to teach you, Liu Kang. So, like, this whole time, all Raiden was doing was being a spoken manual and, like, moral support. Why couldn't he just give them a physical manual? Like, Raiden, what are you even doing here?
Raiden basically tells them he can't do anything, but says, good luck.
But it's been too long, because Shang decides to kidnap Sonya, taking her to Outworld.
Liu Kang and Johnny Cage pursue.
But the really bad stuff is the Outworld stuff.
Which in this case is the set from the movie Escape from LA. Snake Plissken approves.
I like the design of Outworld. I like that we're getting some like cool planar travel stuff. Outworld looks cool. I think it's really neat. I like that it's kind of like inspired by the Shaolin Temple style of constructions. Kind of fits the vibe of what they're going for in the video game. I think it's great.
You don't need all that stuff in this. You just need the tournament with the crazy cast of characters. You don't need any of the Outworld stuff. It should not have been in this film. You know, it should have left it for the end.
We get a real reptile fight.
Then, as random as it feels just to happen out of nowhere, the fight between Liu Kang and Reptile was pretty badass too.
Yeah, I remember loving the Liu Kang reptile fight as a kid, but it does feel a little tacked on.
This whole fight was also added because they did a screen test and people wanted more fight. So they went back behind the camera and added in this whole Liu Kang reptile fight just to have another fight, not even related to the tournament. It's just happening.
It was kind of clever, though, with Reptile being a secret character in the original game and being a surprise enemy in this one.
That's just an example where they were just trying to fit in whatever they could to, satisfy as many fans as they could, which is a good and a bad thing in this case. I think in this movie, it's not so much a great thing.
But we also realize that Liu Kang wore the same dirty wife beater the entire movie.
I do like the techno dance music here, though. Wait, where's Johnny during this whole fight?
Reptile also follows them to Outworld and gets absorbed into a statue, which turns him into the Reptile character from Mortal Kombat 2.
I'm not sure how everyone else feels about this, but I've always loved the use of the video game audio when Reptile was fully formed. It just always felt proper to me for some reason. Like, I would have made that choice too.
And goes on a fight with Liu Kang.
God, Liu Kang's bicycle kick versus, I believe, Reptile.
Liu does the bicycle kick.
Also, a true bicycle kick.
Eventually, bicycle kicks Reptile, who does 4 backflips back through a brick wall and then turns into a demon statue again.
The way that Reptile just crumbles apart and turns into bugs, it's weird but kind of cool. But he's a reptile. Bugs aren't reptiles, so, doesn't really make that much sense, I guess.
I like that they swung for the fences and tried to fit stuff like Reptile in. It could have been done a lot better, but I at least give them credit for trying some of this stuff.
Katana appears out of nowhere to tell him, good job. Wait, seriously, where the hell is Johnny Cage?
After the fight with Reptile, they run into Princess Katana, who will help guide them through Outworld and up into the tower.
Katana explains some more backstory.
She fills them in on the history of Outworld and how she was adopted by Shao Kahn after he invaded Outworld and killed her father.
In the Black Tower, you will face 3 challenges. You must face your enemy, you must face yourself, and you must face your worst fear.
She tells Liu Kang that he is the chosen warrior. He will be facing Shang Tsung, but he will also have to face his enemy, himself, and his worst fear.
I love that when we see the Black Tower, it's basically ripped right from Mortal Kombat 2. Man, I love that game. This set at the top of Shang Tsung's tower is awesome. I love the giant doors with all the skeletons built into them, and the spiral staircase around the giant MK emblem.
Sonya is tied up in some random tower, wearing a leather outfit, but not like a cute Princess Leia way. It's just weird.
I do really hate that they made Sonya a damsel in distress. It really doesn't fit her character at all.
Oh, hey, Sonya got a new outfit, and, I can't really judge it too harshly because it is identical to the ones the Amazons wear in the Wonder Woman movies, and those were probably a little bit more than tree-fitting.
Katana, Liu Kang, and Johnny Cage are able to infiltrate the tower.
Liu Kang, Johnny Cage, and Katana sneak in as monks, and Katana accuses Shang of interfering with the tournament.
And then Liu Kang challenges Shang Tsung to Mortal Kombat.
Kang challenges Shang. I am Liu Kang, descendant of Kung Lao.
Test your might.
Liu challenges Shang Tsung, kicking off at least the 4th time the theme song kicks in.
And then we're greeted by more techno. Again!
I love it. When Liu Kang and Shang Tsung are fighting at the end, this is the third time we've heard the theme song already in this movie. It's just like, if you've got it, just do it.
Dot, 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 dot. No, I don't need to do that again. You get the gist of it.
Seriously, all the music budget went to this one song.
This whole final battle between Shang Tsung and Liu Kang is really good.
Finally, Liu Kang gets a good hit and makes Shang Tsung bleed his own blood.
Shang Tsung decides to cheat halfway through and summons a bunch of ancient warriors, monks, Mongols, and even a freaking samurai.
So in this fight scene, they had the dudes pop out of the floor, and they were dealt with rather quickly.
Liu has to fight the reanimated souls that Shang has stolen, and they're all weak. I mean, they did lose.
We then cut to Katana, who says, "Face your enemy," which actually means the souls of 1,000 dead warriors, which translates also into 6 actual warriors, which Liu Kang has to beat.
All the while, Exposition Girl Katana announces everything going on.
But for the rest of the entire scene, they are always on the floor. How long did they just have to lie there? Because they go from like the floor to, the second level, and like these dudes are still there. I don't ever recall there being a point where there was even like a mistake where they weren't shown on the floor. They're just laying there. Like, come on.
He then needs to face himself, which is Liu Kang just reciting out loud about how he has a free soul that cannot be owned.
We get that whole dead brother soul into the mix.
Sung turns into Chang, Liu's brother. What a shitty move.
And then the final challenge is to face his worst fear, which is the angsty, dead teenage brother. Which my question at this point, why was he fighting Liu Kang's brother prior to the tournament even happening? Why would you goat Liu Kang in coming back to be in the tournament? Liu Kang's younger brother Chan would have entered the tournament, failed and been killed, and then Shao Kahn could take over Earthrealm. Shang Tsung, you done gone f***ed up.
I am Liu Kang, descendant of Kung Lao. You killed my brother. Prepare to die.
All those souls and you still don't have one of your own. I pity you, sorcerer. And Kang does his double-fisted fireball move.
Finally, Liu Kang gets the upper hand and fireball Shang Tsung.
And we end triumphantly with Liu Kang just like double fist punching Shang Tsung onto some spikes. Very Mortal Kombat finale.
Down into the pit of spikes for a fatality.
You've got the Energy Bolt versus Shang Tsung by Liu Kang.
And of course, Shang Tsung's death by spikes is classic. Fatality.
And Shang loses all of his souls.
You've got Shang Tsung really just kind of falling on his own spikes.
All the souls trapped in Shang Tsung escape into a beam of light into the sky, and Liu makes peace with his brother.
Fatality, but not a flawless victory, because again, Liu got hit.
And this is where we also find out that Liu Kang does not know the definition of flawless victory.
Flawless victory, which is not really flawless victory, because in a flawless victory you don't take any damage, and he definitely got punched a bunch by Shang Tsung.
Because Liu Kang got his ass kicked for half that fight. That does not mean flawless victory. Somebody needs a thesaurus.
But whatever, it's fine. And he wins, and we have saved the world.
So if you didn't know, Shang Tsung didn't actually die. He faked it, and then went off to Hawaii to become an international surfer. Disney actually made this sequel. It's called Johnny Tsunami.
This is like such a satisfying ending.
Happy music. Everyone's rejoicing. We're back in Earthrealm.
It's so positive and upbeat.
The movie ends with an awesome song that reminded me of Hackers, also from 1995.
The movie ends with Raiden reuniting with Earth's champions back in Thailand, and they all hug like a group of old friends.
With Raiden and Johnny Cage and Sonya and Liu Kang and Princess Katana, and it looks like there's relationships forming.
Raiden congratulates them like a Little League soccer coach.
And everybody's happy.
Speaking of the end, I really did like the fact they ended it on a cliffhanger, showing that they were about to go up against the forces of evil from Mortal Kombat 2.
But then, just when everything seems back to normal, a storm rolls in from out of nowhere. Thunder crackles and a booming voice echoes, "Bow to me." "What is it?" Liu Kang asks Raiden, and he responds, "The Emperor."
Shao Kahn and getting Sindel and Katana and Melina, all those crazy people in there.
Except at the very end, we get Shao Kahn shows up.
But again, we'd already been exposed to a lot of it, so I think it lost a little bit of its impact, but seeing Shao Kahn was pretty cool.
And now we've got to fight Shao Kahn.
But then all of a sudden, the sky gets dark, and Frank Welker as Shao Kahn shows up.
Oh, and Frank Welker essentially doing his Inspector Gadget villain Dr. Claw for Shao Kahn.
Just then, an ancient building breaks apart and we see the massive image of Shao Kahn appear.
At least like seeing him up in the sky, like, you weak, pathetic fools.
Taunting, "You weak, pathetic fools, I've come for your souls." Raiden responds, "I don't think so." And they all jump into fighting stances like the Power Rangers.
And Raiden's like, we're gonna do it, and we get hero pose, like fighting stance.
And that's the end.
It's funny, but it works all the same.
Pretty sweet.
We get ready for a epic fight against Shao Kahn and the Earth Warriors.
Cue the Immortals song.
And it turns out, yes, the same song and remix was in the end.
And we get the song for a fourth time.
Da 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 da.
And credits.
Yes, and that takes us out into the credits, and it's awesome.
I know the second one is abysmal, but this cliffhanger ending always gets me jazzed up to watch the next one.
This was a fun movie to go back and watch.
Man, I loved revisiting this one. I know it doesn't completely hold up, but it is just enough nostalgia for me to overlook its flaws.
Even though I was looking at it far more critical than I was when I was 12.
All right, 1995 Mortal Kombat is not a perfect movie, but it's really fun.
My thoughts about the movie, overall, it is one just... It's a movie about fighting. That's what it is.
I had a great time with this movie.
It's fighting from beginning to end, and if you're coming to it for anything but the stupid, really dumb fights, you're in the wrong place.
It's silly and kind of dumb, but I like that they just kind of leaned into the weirdness and the kookiness and the dorkiness of some of these characters and the storyline and all this stuff. And
all in all, I really wish I loved this movie.
This movie feels like someone wrote down notes on a napkin and then left that napkin somewhere. Then someone else found them, filmed exactly that, and then left that film somewhere. Then someone else found the footage and was like, hey, this is basically a movie. I'm gonna put it in theaters.
Outside of that, though, I don't really know what else to say about the film. I actually thoroughly enjoyed it, even though it might have sounded like throughout this entire time I was making fun of it. But I still feel like that's a valid form of entertainment.
It's just good stuff.
I thought all of the main characters were good. Johnny Cage is fun, and the guy who did Liu Kang was great. Shang Tsung is an awesome villain. Goro looks cool.
The hard cuts are hard. The message is convoluted. The emotion is forced.
It's just, like I said, it's a good film. It's a good time.
Yeah, I thought that this was really well done. Even rewatching it now,
I would still go back and watch it now and have that same good time. I could feel that. So looking at it through today's lens, maybe you weren't around in the 90s, and looking back on it now, you probably won't be able to look back on it as fondly as someone who was around when it was new and getting to see how everything has transformed from then till now.
Overall, I feel like this movie did a very respectable job in translating the source material without deviating so much that it feels foreign or adhering so much to it that it isn't a coherent flick. Too bad they didn't stick to that lesson the second time around.
I did enjoy the moves that the fighters used were, I guess, callbacks to the games.
There's a fair amount of Easter eggs from the games that they work into the film.
The producers tried to include moves from a video game into a realistic-ish movie.
Special moves from Sub-Zero where he freezes people. Shang Tsung's soul fatality.
Though there were a few callbacks, including Scorpion pulling his off his mask to blow fire, and Liu Kang's bicycle kick.
Scorpion has his spear, and he attempts his flame fatality, happening in the the realm of hell from the game.
I guess the only thing would have been Liu throwing fireballs, which I think he does in the next movie, and it's terrible.
Liu Kang does his bicycle kick and has a fireball. There's a spike fatality. Reptile did spit in Liu Kang's face, but I don't know if it was technically his acid spit because Liu Kang's face didn't melt off, but I guess that counts. There's the pit area where you could uppercut somebody and have them fall to their death. And then Johnny Cage does a shadow kick, a junk punch, and he does a friendship.
Didn't Jackie Chan movies exist at this point, like en masse? They could have just rehashed First Strike or Rumble in the Bronx, and it would be much better than what we got.
I will give it credit for a few things. Like I said, it really swung for the fences as far as satisfying fans. It tried to get everybody, a wide base of people happy, and I don't think it satisfied anybody completely, but it didn't leave anybody that I know of like totally cold to it.
I would have liked a little bit of a story in the second half. I'd feel like they didn't really develop anything that happened after the tournament started very well. But to be fair, the source material they were working with was, they've since developed, there's 11 Mortal Kombat games. They've since developed the stories of some of these characters. But this movie came out after Mortal Kombat 2 had just been released. And like a lot of these guys were just basically like digitized like fighting guys, and there wasn't a whole lot of story behind them. Reptile, Sub-Zero, and Scorpion and Noob Saibot were all just like palette swaps of the same character, right?
It's a fun enough movie. It's pretty harmless. It's kind of forgettable, honestly.
Favorite fighter is Sub-Zero, although I did enjoy Johnny Cage in this film, and I think that's also because they just did both Scorpion and Sub-Zero awful. Pretty disappointed when my favorite character was essentially reduced to a frozen dick measuring contest.
Anyway, when this movie came out, I saw it about 100 times in the movie theater. I could probably do the entire thing from memory. I loved it. I loved it as a teenager. I thought it was like the most awesome movie ever.
I'm really excited about the new movie, and I hope it can really recapture some of the same energy and magic of this one.
And rewatching it now, I'm sure that like the nostalgia factor worked in this movie's favor. I don't know if I would have loved it as much if I hadn't had that history with it, but I really had a good time with it, and I really enjoyed watching it.
It's infinitely better than a lot of the other video game movies that had come before, and frankly, that have come since. The bar's not very high, but at least this one is up near the bar if it doesn't clear it.
I don't care what anyone else says, this is a classic.
I really appreciated this film not trying to cram as many video game references into the movie as they could have. Another film made that mistake, and we'll talk about that next week.
Unfortunately for all of us, the potential that was set up at the end of this one is entirely wasted by the sequel.
Watch it. Go enjoy yourselves. Don't watch a sequel.
So I do like that it ended on a cliffhanger teasing, essentially the characters from Mortal Kombat 2. Like, oh, cool, hopefully we'll get more. And unfortunately for all of us, we did.
But I am excited to dig into the other ones because, admittedly, I've never seen them.
Next up will be Annihilation, and man, that, I don't know how I'm going to react.
And we will be back next week with Mortal Kombat Annihilation, which I also saw opening day in the theater, and I was the only person there.
I'm going to be watching it this weekend drunk for another podcast, so I'm probably not going to be nice.
Yeah, we'll see for that one.
But we'll have to wait and see.
Thanks so much, guys.
Next time on Podcasters Assemble.
The fighters will return in Mortal Kombat Annihilation.
Dear Christ, don't watch the sequel.
God help us.
May God have mercy on your soul.
Save yourselves.
Shao Kahn, Emperor of Outworld.
The Earth was created in 6 days, so too shall it be destroyed.
Your planet, Outworld, had begun to merge into one realm. Think of it as hell on Earth.
I thought our victory closed those portals.
Mother. If I am correct, your mother Sindel is the key to all of this. By reuniting you with her, Khan's spell will be broken.
This is the beginning of the end!
Khan's portals stay open.
Pretty cool.
Raiden?
It's a new look.
Prepare for final battle!
review for that later. Bye.
Until next time, podcasters,
Get over here!
assemble.
Podcasters Assemble is a production of the We Can Make This Work, Probably Podcast Network. Find more of our shows at probablywork.com and learn how to contribute to future episodes of Podcasters Assemble by looking us up on Twitter and Instagram at Casters Assemble or joining our Discord page, link in the show notes. Submissions are always open. Intro and outro written by Eric Slater. Music by Deathstroke Sound. You can find more of his music on Instagram at Deathstroke Sound and on Twitter at Deathstroke1. This episode was edited by Eric Slater. Thank you to everyone who was able to contribute to this episode. Be sure to check out the show notes for links where you can find them all online. Thank you.
This has been a presentation of the We Can Make This Work
Probably Network.
Follow us on Twitter
At Probably Work for more of our questionable content.
Also, we have a website called probablywork.com.
As we are preparing to watch Mortal Kombat Annihilation, I do want to remind everyone of the Mortal Kombat Annihilation drinking game, which is anytime somebody does a flip and you don't see the stunt person land the flip, you take a shot. Or don't take a shot. You'll die. Just take a sip off a beer.
I'm sorry, my cat decided he wanted to use the litter box while I was talking.
Hey, Eric, hopefully your hand's feeling better. Well, that's if you're editing this. I don't know. You edited the last couple episodes, so I don't know if it's gone back to Troy or someone else. But hopefully your hand's doing better. I tried to be shorter, and I failed miserably. I apologize.
Liu Kang goes to Shao Kahn's, not Shao Kahn's, but Shang Tsung's island.
Played by Christopher Lambert. Lambert? Is the T silent? Someone look that up. I have no producer. Never mind.
Can't really remember any one-liners at the moment.
That Veronica Vaughn is one piece of ace. What's wrong with me?
Scorpion and Sub-Zero, deadliest of enemies, but slaves. But slaves. But slaves under my power.
So you might have noticed that I haven't had a lot to say for the past hour and a half's worth of movie. That's because I stopped watching it. I maybe it's just a product of its time, but this movie sucked. I couldn't find the energy to watch it. So I got up to where the actor gets invited to the fight, and I think that's the last thing I saw.
Your soul is mine. Wow, I'm gonna lose my voice on this one.
So, I'll just end this here. I don't really know how to end it. But thank you so much for accepting my entry for Podcast Assemble for Mortal Kombat. And whatever happens here.
Yeah. Mortal Kombat. Woo!
Podcasters, assemble!